श्री परमात्मने नमः। अथ त्रयोदशोऽध्यायः। This chapter began with the words of Arjuna asking him, Bhagavan, what's the difference between Kshetra and Kshetrajna? And for that Bhagavan said, this Anatma is the Kshetra and the one who knows it is the Kshetrajna. And he said about different functions of the Kshetra, different functions of the Anatma Kshetra. And he also said about different values needed to understand this Kshetrajna. And he continues to say that, Bhagavan Krishna is telling, Adhyatmajnana nityatvam tattvajnanartha darshanam yedajnanamiti proktam ajnanayyadadonyatha. So this is the 11th shloka in chapter 13 of Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavan is telling, Adhyatma Jnana Nityatvam, constancy in self-knowledge. It is very important. For anything, to achieve in anything, one needs that constant practice. That is Abhyasa Yoga, constant practice one needs. Or otherwise, if we leave it halfway, or if we think that it is so difficult, it cannot be achieved, so then it's a great loss for us. So everything needs a constant practice. So here also, constancy in self-knowledge is very important. Tattva jnanartha darshanam, understanding tattva jnana, understanding its meaning. Tattva jnanartha darshanam, that is perceiving the true knowledge, understanding the true knowledge, that is very important. Yeda jnanamiti proktam, I will say this only, I will say this as knowledge. Only this as knowledge, that is understanding Atma Jnana and constancy in Atma Jnana, self-knowledge, that is knowledge. Anyat, that is not all the other, is not knowledge. Yat anyat, ajnanam yat anyat. All the others are ajnanam, ignorance. So only what is self-knowledge is said to be knowledge according to Bhagavan. All the other things are, we strive so hard to get all the degrees in this materialistic world. Great degrees, and we strive so hard to study that, to enter in some institutions and to get a degree in it, and that also graduation, post-graduation, doctorate, postdoctoral, what all are there. So all these, according to Bhagavan, are ajnana. Yes, definitely, because all that are subject to change. Nothing in this world is permanent. Even the art which is said as traditional, that itself is changing according to time. So all the knowledge in this materialistic world are subject to change by time. One other than only Atma Vidya is permanent, Nitya. And that's why Bhagavan is telling, only this is Jnana and all the others, according to me, are Ajnana. And in the next shloka, that is in shloka 12, Bhagavan Krishna says, Nyeyam yattat pravakshyami yajñātvāmritamashnute anādhimat param brahma na sattat na satuchyate. Bhagavan is telling, Nyeyam, what is to be known, yet tat pravakshyami, I will explain, I will declare that to you. What that is to be known, that I will declare to you. Yet Jnatva, having known that, Amrdam Ashnude, one attains immortality. So I will explain, or I will expound what is to be known. And knowing that one attains immortality, Anadimat Param, and that Brahman is Anadi. Adi means beginning, Anadi means beginningless, Matha means that nature. So it is of the nature of beginningless nature. It is beginningless nature. Param means supreme. Why is something said as supreme? When something is not limited by desha kala vastu. Desha means when it doesn't occupy any limited space. That is all pervading. That is Brahman doesn't have, Bhagavan. or Brahman doesn't cannot be limited by space. Space itself came from Bhagavan. So it is not limited by space. Desha Kala cannot be limited by time. The time itself exists in Bhagavan, so not limited by time. And Vastu, any form, any particular form, doesn't have any particular form. It is all pervading everywhere. So it is omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent. So it cannot be limited by anything which we know. We all are limited by Desha, Kala, Vastu. But Bhagavan is not that. That is Brahman. Brahman, it is na sat, it is not being. Tat na asat, it is not asat also. It is said as that. So we say that Brahman is the only Satya, that is the only Sat, but here Bhagavan is telling it is na Sat, means it is not Sat, which implies that we understand only that transactional reality. Bhagavan is beyond that, Brahman is beyond that. In the transactional reality, what is can be perceived by the five senses is said as Sat. See, this table exists before me, in front of me. So, it is a Sat. If it is not there, it is Asat. So, what can be perceived by the five senses is a Sat, and cannot be perceived by the five senses is Asat. So, this is transactional reality. Brahman doesn't come in under this group itself. It doesn't manifest, so it cannot be perceived by the five senses, so it is not Sat. Neither it is Asat. You cannot say it doesn't exist because it is not visible to our eyes or cannot be perceived by the five senses, but everything exists in him. So it cannot be said as na Asat also. So Bhagavan is telling this from the Paramarthika reality, that is from the absolute reality. We understand this world as transactional reality, but Bhagavan, when he says, he is telling from that view, from that stand, Paramarthika Satya, absolute Satya, it is beyond the reach of our mind and senses. And it is always exists as witness. And it is that's why Bhagavan says it is na sat, na asat. It is not being, not being, because all the beings and everything exists there in him, and that is the Paramarthika Satya, absolute reality. The next shloka, shloka 13. Sarvadhai pani padantat sarvadokshi shiromukham sarvada shruti malloke sarvamavrutya tishtati. This shloka is said by acharyas as adhyaropa shloka because the meaning of this shloka says, Sarvada Panipadam. It has a pani means hands, padam means legs. It has legs and hands everywhere. That Sarvado Akshi, it has eyes everywhere. Shiras, it has head everywhere. Mukham, mouth everywhere. Sarvada Shrutimaloke, it has many ears. Sarva Avrutya Dishtati. Avritya means it has enveloped everything and it exists like that. This is another way of explaining the Vishwarupa of Bhagavan. It has so many eyes, heads, mouth, legs, everything. This is said as the Adhyaropa Shloka by the Acharyas because the whole universe is superimposed on Brahma. So, Brahman appears as this world. For example, if we have a prism, the prism is actually colorless. But if you place a red color cloth near it, then the prism appears as red color. So this is Adhyaropam, superimposing color into that on that colorless prism. If we remove it, if we remove the cloth, then the original nature of the prism can be perceived. Removing it is Apavada. So Adhyaropa and Apavada. So now the whole universe is superimposed on Brahman. To understand the real nature of Brahman, we have to remove these subjects and understand it alone. That's everything about Atma Vidya. So he says he has eyes, heads, mouth, ears everywhere. He exists in this world, enveloping all. There is only one consciousness that is eternal, all pervading, luminous, and that common consciousness is Brahman. And everything, all these varieties of infinite form, infinite gunas, they all are superimposed on that Brahman. Next shloka. सर्वेन्द्रिय गुणभासं सर्वेन्द्रिय विवर्जितम् असक्तं सर्वभृच्चैव निर्गुणं गुणभोक्तृ च. It's a very important shloka. It has many paradoxical statements. Sarvendriya gunabhasam. Sarvendriya gunabhasam means it shines through the function of these senses. Shining by the function of all the senses. We can understand the existence of Brahman through the senses. It is shining through the senses. Sarvendriya vivarjitam, and at the same time it is devoid or without the senses. So this is paradoxical statement. It shines through all the senses, but at the same time it is without the senses. Actually, the senses means we say that these are the sense organs, the eyes, the ears, the mouth, the nose. These are all the sense organs. These are in Sanskrit, it is said as the Indriya Gholaka. So this alone cannot perform any function. It is in our external body. But the power of the senses is behind it. It is the power of the sight which makes the Golaka itself to function. So the behind these organs, the subtle power of the senses are there. So the power of the senses also works by the power of the mind. Only when the mind is applied to that power, that sense will be active. Who activates the mind? Bhagavan, it's Brahman. So through these senses, Brahman see the external world. As Jiva, he is residing in us and functions through these senses. That is, he is shining through these senses. But at the same time, he is not attached to the senses. He doesn't need the sense to see this world or perceive this world. So that is, he is without the senses, at the same time shining through these senses. Asaktam sarvabhrutchaiva. It is unattached, but still it supports all. Because it supports these senses, it supports this body. Here, another point has to be noted is, Brahman is all pervading. Its reflection falls on the body and mind. And the reflection is said as chitta bhasa. Chit means intelligent, abhasa means reflection. So chitta bhasa, that reflection falls on the mind and body. So it is the chitta bhasa which is behind the function of the senses, and it is supports the senses, but at the same time it is unattached. But the chitta bhasa, when it is with the mind, it is said as jiva. Chitabhasa plus mind is said as the jiva, but actually the chitabhasa is unattached, but it imagines, since it is with the mind, it thinks that it is attached to the body and mind. So it is unattached, but it supports this whole body and mind. Chitabhasa is not different from Brahma. So yet supporting all, it is unattached. Nirgunam gunabhoktrasya. It has all the qualities, it experiences the gunas. It as Antaratma, Brahman experiences the gunas. As the Jiva, as the Chitabhasa, it experiences the gunas, but at the same time, it doesn't have any gunas. Just like what I said with the prism. This prism, when a red color cloth is kept near that prism, it appears as a red prism. But when it is removed, the original nature of the prism can be perceived. So everything, the prism doesn't is not attached to anything. But at the same time, it appears like this. So Brahman, as Jiva, he appears as this world or this body and mind. But in reality, he is unattached. This is a very deep shloka said by Bhagavan Krishna to understand the nature of Atma or Brahman. बहिरन्दश्च भूतानाम् अचरञ्चरमेव च सूक्ष्मत्वात् तद्विज्ञेयं धूरस्थं चान्तिके च तत् Bahirandascha Bhutanam. It is inside the Bhutas as well as the external to Bhutas. It is all pervading. We all exist in Brahman. We are not separate from Brahman. Since we cannot see it, we do not understand it or perceive it. But in reality, we are not different from Brahman. We exist in Brahman. So inside and outside, everything is Brahman. Without and within, everything, Bhutanam, of all the Buddhas, this Brahman. Acharam, unmoving, Charam, moving, everything also Brahman. Sukshmatvat, because of its sukshma, subtle nature, we cannot perceive it, so we do not understand it maybe. Avijneyam and Dhurastam, because of its sukshmatvat, it is avijneyam, it is unknowable. Dhurastam, it is far for all of us. That's why we go to far away temples to worship instead of worshipping our own Atma. But we go to a long distance, climb mountains, sometimes cross rivers, sea, to see Bhagavan without understanding, because we do not know that he is within us and he is outside us also. We worship his manifestation, we worship his form, but we do not in reality worship his real nature, which is our Atma. Durastam, for at the same time, Antike. Antike means very near. He's very near to the Jnanis, but not for us. He's so far away for us, but he's very near to the Jnanis. That's why many Jnanis, they never go to temples, because they understand that it is the initial stage of worship and they worship their own Atma. So that's the nature of Brahman. Because of its subtlety, no one can know it. Avijnayam, it cannot be known. And it is inside and outside. It is in moving and achara, moving and achara, unmoving. And it is dhurastam, far away, as well as antiki, very near. So that's the nature of Brahman. It's a very famous words from Ishavasya Upanishad and Mundaka Upanishad. It's said there. And the next shloka 16 says, Avibhaktancha bhuteshu vibhaktamiva cha sthitam bhudabhartru cha tadnyeyam grasishnu prabhavishnu cha. Avibhaktancha bhuteshu vibhaktam iva cha sthitam. It is actually avibhakta. That is, avibhakta means undivided. But it appears as divided when it exists in beings. Sarva bhudeshu. Vibhaktam it appears as if it is divided. Bhagavan, that is Brahman, is undivided. That's why we say not even, we say it as one. We say it as non-dual. Because when we say it as one, it is included in the number and it is not infinite. When we say non-dual, it is not two, which implies that it is infinite. At the same time, it cannot say it as one. It cannot be included in the number system itself. It is infinite. But he appears as divided, because we say that in me he's there as Antaratma. So he is divided in me. In another person, he is there. He is inside that person. He is inside you. So it appears that he is divided now. It is just like, how to understand this is, in the mid-noon, when we keep many vessels filled with clear water, the reflection of the sunlight falls on all this water and illumines these vessels. Is it not? After some time, the water will be hot, the vessel will be hot sometimes. Because of that one Surya, That's its reflection and energy absorbed or falling on all these vessels filled with water. It's just like that. Our body is so gross, so it is considered as the vessel. Normally, in Vedanta, they say it as a mud pot, and inside it the water, it is compared with our mind, because only mind has the nature to reflect Brahman. Just like how water or mirror or only the polished surface has that nature to reflect back the sunlight, only mirror has the perfect reflecting nature to reflect back the sunlight. It's nature. That's what, like that. The nature of the mind is to reflect, only it has the nature to reflect back the reflection of Brahman. Body doesn't have the nature to reflect that Brahman reflects, hold that Chitabhasa. Even a stone has intelligence in it. But since the mind is not developed, it cannot reveal that intelligence. But we human beings, we have an advanced mind. Though we are using it for all wrong purposes, we have that advanced mind. And so only human beings has the nature to reveal that intelligence, to reveal that reflection of Brahman. The reflection of Brahman or Atma cannot directly fall on the body, because the body doesn't have the property to reflect it. Only the mind has the property to reflect it. Even the mind, body, buddhi, ahankara, they are all inert. Only because of this reflection falling on it, they all are intelligent, they all are active, or otherwise they are inert. So the reflection of Atma or Brahman cannot directly fall on the body, so it falls on the mind, and from the mind it is transferred to the body, and the body is active, it is said. So when this Chitabhasa along with the mind, which is said as the Jiva, leaves this body, the body again becomes inert. So that is explained here. So the minds are different, bodies are different, ahankara different. So when the reflection of Chitabhasa falls on each of this mind, it appears as different. It appears as separate, and it appears as there are infinite Atmas. No, actually the Atma is one. Its reflection falls on different minds. So it appears as different. I hope I made this point very clear, because it's a very important point. And without understanding it, we cannot understand the spiritual glory of this jiva. Actually, this chitabhasa is actually this jiva is the combination of chitabhasa and mind. The mind will be, when the chitabhasa realizes that I am that reflection of Brahman, it will just separate from this mind, not theoretically but practically realizing it. It needs a lot of, we have to do a lot of journey for that, but when it understands it, that's when the jiva attains moksha, means it doesn't reflect on the mind hereafter. It just understands that it's Brahman. So the mind will be separated from it. For example, when the reflection is falling on a vessel of water, if we pour the water down, what will happen to the reflection? It's gone, isn't it? The mind is separated, it's gone. So just like the water is gone, so the reflection also gone. So when the mind and along with the jiva understands that it is the pure Atma, that's all. The mind just separates, and the jiva, that is the Chitabhasa, goes off, and you can say that it realizes that it's Brahma. So all this can be said in a theoretical term. Even the great acharyas cannot explain more about this Brahma Tattva, or otherwise they would have written it more about this Brahma Tattva. That's why many Upanishads and even Sri Adi Shankaracharya said, only up to a level even a guru or the scriptures can help. After that, we have to travel our journey alone. So that is explained here. avibhaktancha bhudeshu vibhaktam iva cha stitaha. Undivided, yet it exists as if divided in all the beings. It is to be known. Bhuda bhartrucha tad nyayam. It is to be known, which is the supporter of all beings. Because this body and mind cannot exist because of without that Brahman. It is supporting this body and mind because this karana sharira, it has to exhaust this karma. That's the whole point in it. So that is to be known. Grasishnu. Grasishnu means devouring, that is dissolution. And Prabhavishnu, it is generating creation. That is, it is the karana for the creation. Grasishnu means it is the karana for the dissolution. And Bhuda Bhartru means it is supporting all beings. So it is Brahman which is doing all these functions. That is the Atma or Bhagavan, we can say. It all depends upon, the difference depends upon how we express it. But everything is one. ज्योतिषामपि तज्ज्योतिः तमसः परमुच्यते ज्ञानं ज्ञेयं ज्ञानगम्यं हृदि सर्वस्य विष्ठितम्. Jyotisham Jyotihi. It is the light of all lights, the light that illumines all lights, we can say. That is, we see an object. What illumines that object? It is the sunlight. We cannot see it in the dark. So that sunlight illumines the object. Even when the sunlight illumines the object, if we close our eyes, we cannot see it. So it is the eyes that see the object. So this is the next level of understanding. And more is, even if the sunlight illumines an object, even when the eyes see it, if the mind is off, then we won't see that object. That's the greatest problem. We will be dreaming somewhere. Sometimes we miss the class. We do not even know that the Acharya is in front of us. We will be dreaming somewhere. That's the problem with many students. We all would have experienced when we are students. We don't, sometimes some objects doesn't get registered in our mind. That's all depends upon our interest. It's a great philosophy. So it is the mind that illumines the eyes. So when the light is there, object is there, when the eyes is there, even when the mind is there, if Brahman as Chitabhasa does not illumine the mind, then we cannot see anything. So which is more powerful here? Chitabhasa or Brahman. So that is Jyotisham Jyotihi. It illumines everything, but there is no one to illuminate. Is there anything to illumine Brahman? With anything can we see Brahman? No. But by that Brahman or by Atma, we understand our ignorance as well as our jnana, knowledge. Suppose I say that I know it. So what makes it me to say this? The mind is inert. All the impressions in the mind are inert. I say I know this. So it is the power of Brahman which illumines the mind, and so I say I know it. Suppose I do not know about something, some far away thing. I do not know because the impressions are not there in my mind. And say I do not know. What illumines it? The impression is not there in the mind, and that is illumined by Brahman. Without Brahman, I do not know whether this is in my mind or not. So it illumines Brahman, illumines the knowledge as well as ignorance. He is beyond this. And that is said as Jyotisham Jyotihi. Tamasa paramuchade, it is beyond darkness because it shines even the darkness. It makes us to say that it is dark. Ignorance and knowledge, jnana or avidya, both are illuminated by Brahman. Jnanam, jneyam, jnanagamyam, that is jnanam is knowledge, jneyam, that is to be known, jnanagamyam, the phala of it, the moksha, it all remains in our heart. That is, it is Everything is a shine by Brahman. The knowledge, the knowable, and the goal of knowledge, which is moksha, is seated in the hearts of all. We do not want to go to see any place far away. Once when we understand it, we have to see into it, look into it, and understand it more. And the core of this shloka is taken from Shvetashvatara Upanishad as well as the Kathopanishad. It says that it is Brahman with actually what it says it. When it shines, everything shines after it. It is Brahman which shines first, and after that, everything shines. All these shine by its light. So, these are the great mantras taken from Kathopanishad as well as the Shvetashvatara Upanishad. And the next shloka, shloka 18. इति क्षेत्रं तथा ज्ञानं ज्ञेयं चोक्तं समासतः मद्भक्तयेतद्विज्ञाय मद्भावायोपपद्यते. Bhagavan is telling, thus the field, that is the kshetram, as well as knowledge, what all to be known, all these are explained very briefly. All this has been explained, samasata, very briefly. My devotee, he will understand this and he will enter in my being, Bhagavan is telling. So he gave very briefly about the kshetra, the anatma, and about the atma. One has to take it as a lead and go forward. So in the next shloka, in shloka 19, Bhagavan Krishna tell about the Purusha and the Prakriti, which I will continue in my next upload. यत्र योगेश्वरः कृष्णः यत्र पार्थो धनुर्धरः तत्र श्रीर्विजयोर्भूति ध्रुवा नीतिर्मतिर्मम. ॐ श्रीकृष्णार्पणमस्तु.